You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 189, Whitesnake, Slide It In, U.S. release. And coming to you from the Canadian-American suburbs of Chicago, I am your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Matola.
Oh, that was very... Were you rehearsing that?
A little bit.
All right. So who is your daddy? Or was that just like you just saw that movie and were thinking about it?
No, I wasn't. You remember the old Arnold soundboards? You remember when that was a thing?
I don't.
No,
not really.
it was like this phenomenon. I want to say like 10 years ago or something. It was like they came up with it like on a browser. I think it was before smartphones, so like became big. So maybe like what, 10, 12 years ago, whatever.
And you could trigger like different Arnie.
Yeah, they were just all
quotes.
buttons with like his quotes on them, and you would click it and he'd just be like, you know, you son of a bitch, and just all stuff from his different
Considered a divorce.
Yeah, exactly. Everything from his comedies to his action stuff. And then there were the YouTube videos where people would call businesses like hotels or whatever, and they just be like, hello, and he's
Arnold.
like, hi, I'm Arnold, and they's like, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and I want you to answer them, and they're just like, all right, calm down, buddy, you know, and just like and stuff like that. So it's it would be pretty good, although I question the validity of them now, because it's like some of them go on for so long. You're like, how would an operator or anybody think this is a real person?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I like my favorite one is I think it's Commando, where there's like that broken pipe that comes out of the wall and it's shooting out like all this like steam, and he throws the guy into it and it like punctures his back and it's like shooting out his stomach and there's steam coming out of it. And somebody was, I can't remember, somebody asks him like, what happened to him? And he's like, he had to let off a little steam. It's like one of the perfect like action movie zinger. It was great.
Oh, yeah, he was the originator. There were a couple of them, like this one is a lesser known favorite.
Put that cookie down now!
Another kindergarten cop.
Probably.
I would assume so. He doesn't talk about cookies generally very often.
No.
Well, hey folks, speaking of cookies, if you want to give us the equivalent of a cookie, you can do so. We could buy some delicious crumble cookies with the Patreon money, but you can support us by becoming a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Help support the show. You can look at all the links down below if you're looking in YouTube. If you're one of our 10 to 20 YouTube viewers, you can look below, check that out. But you check our show notes. We got links where you can become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Doing so unlocks the rating spreadsheet for you to check out, which should be interesting, especially after this week. And then it also gets you exclusive access to our patrons-only Discord channel, where we have a rollicking good time chatting about all sorts of things Deep Purple related and other. So definitely check it out. You can also send us cash on Cash App at $DPPOD. And all of this stuff goes right back into the show, helps us buy albums and DVDs and all sorts of stuff to support the show. So we really appreciate it. Right now, saving up for the new the confounded computer. So hopefully we'll have a new computer soon. Got a little bit of money in the kitty there. Maybe that could be the Christmas present to ourselves. Well, to me, just to me, because no one else that listens to the show will notice any difference.
Well, to you, I mean, I bought this one with my own money here, this new one. So
that's true. Yeah, you got a nice one
with my own money, folks.
My own money
for you.
It will have absolutely no effect on the show that anybody listening, but it will make the actual production of the show a lot smoother, which would be good.
And I mean, we'll be happier, which makes a better show for you people. So there you go.
And I'm interested to see, because it takes a long time. These are really long files, so to actually render them after they're all edited and mixed, it could take
Mhm.
like 30, 40 minutes to render one episode just of the computer just churning away, building those files. And then usually I have to bring that into another program and convert it to a lower bitrate MP3 if it's over a certain file length. So there's a bit of time in the rendering process that would be saved, which would be very nice. So speaking of patrons, we would like to take the time at the top of the show to do what we always do, which is to thank our executive level patrons coming in at the $25 Uncommon Man tier, Ovis, Nakvi, and Purple Maniac. At the £10 tier, we've got Dr. Jill Brees. At the turn it up to $11 tier, Clay Wambacher, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and Mikkel Steen. At the $10.99 What's Going On Here tier, Mr. Richard Fusey. And at the $10 Someone Came tier, Ryan M., Jeff Bryce, Victor Campos, Better Call Saul Evans, and Kev Roberts and his wonderful children, Matthew, Gareth, and Sarah. Thank you so much to all of you.
Stop it.
For your
Sorry.
No, we will not stop it. Thank you for your generous donations to the Deep Purple podcast. Yeah, I've talked to quite a few patrons. Dr. Jill Brees was at the, well, if she's listening to this is going to be way after the fact because we're way ahead here, but she was at the concert, I think, last night, sent some really nice pictures. Had a little chat with Ovis Nakvi this morning. So great catching up with anybody. Always hearing from Jeff Bryce. Great chatting with all you guys on a regular basis. We really enjoy that. Okay, and before we move on, there is something we must do. And John can hear that now.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
I hope the noise gate doesn't cut that out. Did you hear it when I did the vibraslide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. I heard it.
We fixed it before. Yeah, you're so infatuated with your Arnie soundboard that you're.
Sorry, I'm ruining everything. Hi-oh!
Heyo, we've got an Apple Podcast review. This one
Awesome.
comes to us from Australia. The name is Rosebud Jack, 5 stars. Title is DP Podcast. Rosebud Mr. Jack writes, a great review of an awesome band. Nate and John banter back and forth and cover every inch of the topic. My only complaint, Highway Star, only 4 stars. Seriously? Jack. So he would not be the first one to call us out on that one.
I wonder if him and Rich are in cahoots.
Yeah, Rosebud Jack from Australia. Australia, Massachusetts. Well, the country flag came up as Australia, so I think unless Rich has set up a VPN so that he can spoof in from another
You never
country.
know.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think about 4 stars for Highway Star? I'm starting to feel bad. I feel like our reviews have evolved a lot. Like I
That's
think
been discussed. Yeah,
our criteria has changed over the years. So I mean,
we might have to go back and reevaluate at some point. Maybe that'll be an episode or episodes.
But I think, I don't know. I love Highway Star, and even Smoke on the Water for from a important standpoint. It's just, I think it's just one of those things where I don't feel like I ever need to hear those songs again. So maybe that's why I went with a 4.
I can't remember.
I think it's just from, you've heard them so many times. But yeah, I mean, no denying it, it's a great song and it's great importance. So then of course we want to thank all of the folks at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, all of our brothers in podcasting, everyone from Sabbath Bloody Podcast to the Tom Petty Project and everyone in between. Check out deepdivepodcastnetwork.com for more information. New shows joining all the time. I think my list here might even be out of date. So really appreciate it. All those fine guys and everything that they do. All right, John, here we are. Whitesnake Slided In US version. There were some, if you haven't heard our episode last week, you might want to check that one out first, where we review the UK version. And we've kind of set it up this week where we're going to go walk through the songs again in the order of the US version. We're going to rate them again. We've hidden all the lines on the spreadsheet. And before you say, oh, well, you just did that last week, don't worry, our memories are not that good. I don't remember basically anything from last week.
Especially mine, except for most of the week, I was like walking around and in my head, I'm like, spit it out, spit it out, spit
Really,
it
that was
out,
the
spit it out. And I'm like, oh, stop it, get out of my head.
Yeah, it's tough for me. Which one's
worst.
it been for me? I've actually had in my head all week. Let me drawing a blank here.
Just because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, for me it's Standing in the shadow, we're standing in the shadow. I've been like, just have had that in my head, but be interesting to hear the U.S. version this week.
Well, before we do, I have a special treat.
Oh, let's see it or hear it or
So
whatever it is.
about 6 weeks ago, when I went to the that antiques thing out in Brimfield, I picked up a little something.
Oh,
A vintage Whitesnake patch.
it was it was dark. So he's holding up a Whitesnake like back patch, a vintage Whitesnake logo with the snake, which looks awesome. But the way you were slowly raising it up against your black shirt, I thought it was the album cover for Slide It In, and I saw your finger, and I was like, "Wait, what is this alternate album cover? What's going on?" And then I realized, oh, and then it was just that was it. It was just a little back patch.
Yep. So it's a little vintage Whitesnake. This has got the stuff on the back, so it definitely looks like it's an iron-on that you put on a jean jacket or something. So perfect condition, and it's got
the
little
thing looks like they just made it yesterday.
Yeah, it's got the little snake on it. I was like, I didn't even bother asking, like, oh, is this a reproduction? Because who the hell would reproduce this? Seriously.
I'd love the person that comes. Excuse me, sir. Do you realize that is a that was printed in 2016? I can tell by the thread count on the H.
Don't laugh. There are people like that.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I broke it out just for this episode.
That's fantastic. You should have sewed it onto your jean jacket.
Well, wait a minute.
My mom sewed all my back patches on. It was great. She went from sewing. She went from sewing merit badges on to sewing Metallica and Megadeth back patches. I never had a Deep Purple one.
I had my I would have to go look. But I didn't have as many patches because I asked my mom to sew them on. Like at first I tried to iron them on, but then they would never stay.
Yeah.
And the back patch, I believe you'd have to sew on. But I had a lot more pins on my jacket because they stayed. They stayed better. But I don't know that
my mom is like an excellent sewer, so I had like a really legit. And I had definitely Megadeth, Metallica, and Anthrax. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't have been just those three. There must have been a few others, but nothing too adventurous. Just those kind of the big three sort of people.
You'd have to
Slayer part of the big four. I was never really into Slayer, so I didn't have any Slayer back then.
Yeah, I'd have to pull out my old jacket, but I don't think that I had any Whitesnake at the time anyways, but yeah, anyways, just I saw that and it was very I got what's the word? I got pensive. I got what's that word when you get nostalgic?
Oh, just reminiscent. I don't know.
Well, I'm lost for words at
whatever that word is. He's so choked up about this Whitesnake back patch that he just can't form words.
No, I saw it and I was just like, oh man, the words at the tip of my tongue.
Sentimental?
Yeah, maybe it's something like that, but
we'll go with that until we come up with a better one.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was just like, oh, look at that, a Whitesnake patch, and I wanted to buy it just to have, and without knowing this episode would come up 6 weeks later.
Yeah, look at that.
So yeah, cool
you
stuff.
Knew it would come up one day.
So I got it like right here on my little ledge of Deep Purple podcast stuff in front of me.
Fantastic. Yeah, lots of great stuff. Yeah, I wish everyone could see my view. I get some random stuff around here too. But yeah, so the US version of the album, we talked about the UK version last week. Just to kind of go through some of the background for this. From October to November of 1983, they completed the album at Musicland with Martin Birch. As you know, it had been started earlier with Eddie Kramer, and then Martin Birch kind of came in and finished the album up. At some point during this transition, Colin Hodgkinson quit the band, and then they canceled all the UK tour dates. So you still see some like ads for it, which list all the UK tour dates. Those never happened. On December 1st, 1983, Neil Murray was asked to audition for the band, which is hilarious. Like, could you audition? I've been playing with you for how long?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna fit in or if he's gonna know the songs.
I don't know if he's Whitesnake material.
He's been gone for how long? Like 6 months or something, and is like, okay, you're gonna have to audition.
That'd be like if I left and then you're just like, so yeah, you need to audition for the Deep Purple podcast. It's like,
It'd be
bitch,
like-
I started this with you.
It'd be like if you left for like 6 episodes and then came back and like, yeah, well, I'm doing some auditions. So, and afterwards, I just kind of lower my glasses, like, yeah, well, Mr. Matola, yeah, we'll be in touch. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was
So,
great.
tell me about your prior experience. This show.
I did almost 200 episodes of this show. Oh, interesting. So anyway, they have him audition. He passes the audition. That would be the extra slap if he's like, "Sorry, it just wasn't what we're looking for." Really, you didn't know this before you asked me to come over. So sometime in mid-December, John Sykes rehearses with the band, and Bernie, Mickey Moody tells like a story of like how he was on his way out with the band and he was all unhappy. He tells this famous story about how he was. I don't know exactly what happened, but from his standpoint, he was at a bar. They were playing with Thin Lizzy, and afterwards he was at the bar, and Coverdale came up and kind of like gave him reprimanded him almost in front of John Sykes, and Mickey Moody was just like, "That's it." Like he's like, "Don't ever turn your back on the audience again," or something like that. So Moody was like, "Screw this guy, I'm out of here." Like tensions were already up, and he's just done. And he just said like, I knew. He's like, Coverdale. I was in my mind thinking Coverdale should get somebody like John Sykes because he's a great player and a good looking guy, and that's what he wants. And sure enough, that's what happened. So Sykes is confirmed as the new guitarist from January and late January. They do overdubs. So Murray and Sykes go into the studio and they do a bunch of overdubs on the already recorded album. So I was talking a bit with Jorg about this. I guess we'll get into this too, but about how basically the a calendar, it's like impossible, calendar, had basically wanted Whitesnake to sound more American. So Coverdale says, in this is in the Japanese remix, a quote from him. He says, "What happened was we finished the album in Europe and we were all delighted with the way it came out. However, the American record company said it was sounding European and not sounding American. Even when I said, I am European, they said, however, we'd like it to sound American. So I gave them carte blanche to remix in the US on the condition that I could include John Sykes, who'd recently joined Whitesnake, and Neil Murray, who'd recently rejoined Whitesnake. And they accepted that premise. So I got what I wanted, and they got what they wanted in essence. The difference is that you can hear the voice a lot better, and you have John Sykes and Neil Murray playing on it, whereas in the European mix, you don't have them." So interesting that was kind of the arrangement that got made. And it's funny, they kind of considered like, we need somebody like John Sykes to be more American. John Sykes isn't even American, so but it's fun when you look at him. He looks American, right? He looks like he could have been in any one of those hair bands. So maybe that was. I think that's probably the thinking from the record label,
or more maybe American looking or sounding, or like
Yeah,
his image or his playing.
his image and his playing probably are a little more in the less rooted in that British blues sort of sound.
Well, I mean, there's something to it because I mean, maybe that whole, or not maybe, but definitely that whole thing did help him break over here, going into the next album. So,
Yep, it certainly did. So John Caldner was the first A&R records executive at Geffen Records, which had just been formed. It was brand new, which was headed up by David Geffen. Geffen heard that Coverdale was switching management, so he flew Caldner to the UK to try to recruit Coverdale for Geffen. Caldner said he worked really hard to sign Coverdale, and eventually they sealed a deal. Caldner says, "I thought they were a great commercial rock band. The problem is that I told Coverdale, even though I really loved the other guys in the band, they weren't as good as him. He was a superstar, and we were entering the age of Bon Jovi, all of the big superstars, and I thought Coverdale's voice and songs were better than anything." Mickey Moody says, "They ended up taking a lot of Mel, Galley, and me off it and putting on John Sykes. I was gone by then, so I really can't tell you anything further." Then he goes on to say, "It wasn't the same, let's just put it that way. The band in 1983 was not the Whitesnake that I knew and loved." So Moody goes on to say that they never really tried to emulate other bands' sounds, but that he could see that was the direction that they were headed, and being signed with this American label, that they were going to try to. He could kind of see the future, which did come to pass, which was they were going to try to get them to look and sound more like all the stuff that was popular at that time, which sure enough is what they did. So Coverdale, I guess he had toyed with both Michael Schenker and, funny enough, Adrian Vandenberg about giving them the gig. But Vandenberg at this point was just starting to get some success with his own band, who had just had a hit with Burning Heart, so he turned Coverdale down, and he did end up with Sykes. Callender felt that Sykes, from his past history with like Tigers of Panzang, Thing Lizzie, that he'd be the right fit with Coverdale. And he talks a lot about Sykes because of his good looks, and that he implied that he would have wanted Mel Galley out even if he hadn't gotten injured, because Mel Galley, that didn't have that look. He had kind of shorter hair and the glasses and was kind of like, an awesome rocker, but didn't look the part of what bands were looking like at that time.
Well, I mean, yeah, let's be honest. I mean, the early Whitesnake was not what you would call a group of handsome men.
Yes.
They were not pretty boys by any means.
No, they were perfect for radio.
I mean, John Lord looked pretty badass at that time, but
yeah,
not exactly that kind of glammy 80s image. So, I mean, more along the lines of a kind of a John McCoy, real badass looking.
Yeah.
So,
which, a few years earlier wouldn't have mattered as much, but when MTV and the videos becoming big in the past couple of years, was MTV like 81 or something when they launched, so it's brand new at this point. And
I remember a lot of those bands had problems crossing over because they're just like, all right, like the handlebar mustaches and all that shit just aren't gonna fly, because people are looking at him being like, ugh.
Well, John Lord could have brought back that that shirt that he has like unbuttoned down to like the navel with that like glam shot he has. It looks like it's from Tiger Beat.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that would be like the perfect. You just bust that out in Whitesnake.
Oh, John Lord, the cover. Really. John Lord, the cover of Tiger Beat, like Donny Osmond, John Lord.
Like, a big picture of John Lord in the corner, like John, oh yeah, Donny Osmond, yeah.
Donny Osmond, Leif Garrett,
John Lord.
Who else died? David Cassidy.
Yeah, we need to put our Photoshop skills to the test and make that happen.
Absolutely.
So Coverdale describes Sykes's audition and that Cozy didn't like him, but Cozy really kept the idea alive and really wanted Sykes in the band, even though Cozy was not a fan. I don't know if it was of him personally or his playing, but I guess Cozy wasn't into it. And obviously the Cozy era of Whitesnake doesn't last very long, nor does the Sykes. So Coverdale at this point, he hadn't really given in yet to the idea of having a guitar hero in the band. He says Callender was having to talk to him, saying that there was no one else in his. He's really like pumping up Coverdale. There's no one else in this band is as good. I mean, you're in a band with John Lord, like come on, but like nobody in this band deserves to be in a band with you. Basically, pumping up his ego and saying you need like star players like this John Sykes guy. So he used kind of the other. He said like Jagger, Richards, or Page and Plant, or Daltrey Townsend, Perry Tyler, like all these like these great like guitar hero / singer, where bands where the guitarist is almost like at the same level of the singer as far as like whatever fame and sex appeal and all that. He wanted to kind of build the same sort of thing with a Coverdale Sykes. That was kind of his idea. So Coverdale said he was, again, subconsciously against it because seeing the abuse of power that Ritchie manifested, he specifically invokes Ritchie there, he was nervous to go down that path again, is like having a guitarist who's maybe ego and stubbornness and control and all of that could take over the band. I mean, I guess in this case, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue because he wasn't a founding member or anything. He could kind of have some more control, but he was worried that it was going to turn into another Ritchie situation. He didn't want that to happen. So funny story. Coverdale says his mother, and a lot of the stuff, these stories come from a few books. One is Martin Popoff's great Whitesnake Fantastic Voyage book, and then we've got a few here from the Cozy Powell Dance with the Devil book, and then also this great illustrated Simon Robinson Whitesnake illustrated biography, which is really awesome. It's out of print, but you can find it on like eBay and stuff. It only goes up to what's the latest it goes up to? It was like early 90s maybe. Yeah, like I'm on one of the last pages and there's a picture of like Sarzo and Vivian Campbell. So yeah, it doesn't go very. When was it published? 1989. There you go. So it's great for everything we're covering up until a couple more albums. So he tells a story. He says, when his mother first saw a picture of John Sykes, she told him, "David, are you crazy? You'll never get any of the girls." So up until then, he hadn't really even thought about it. But he said that having Sykes in the band convinced him to get in the best shape of his life. So you start seeing Coverdale looking a little bit more working out and getting some muscles and stuff. So he says having John in the band not only revitalized them musically, but kind of physically as well.
Revitalized him sexually.
Sexually, it doesn't take much to revitalize Coverdale. All it takes is about 15 minutes. He's revitalized, ready for another round. So Coverdale said he was never crazy about keyboards, and that John Lord's role in the band was minimal in the years leading up to this. So he said he was going back to Lord ends up going back to Purple, and after that point he just says, I'm going to just use keyboards to round out the sound. So this is going to be like the last album where you hear like more powerful keyboards from Whitesnake. Until recently, funny enough, they've got like two keyboardists in the band now, and when they were playing a few months ago, they had Dino on stage with a keytar doing keyboard solos. So everything comes full circle. But at this point, yeah, keyboards were like kind of a no-no. If you had them in the band, they were secret. They were in the back. They weren't in any of the photo shoots. Kind of sucks, but it's kind of the way it was. So Callagher thought the UK version was too heavy on keyboards and wouldn't cut it in the US. Callagher and Coverdale had a big fight, and Callagher wanted to bring someone in to mix the album, someone aside from Martin Birch. So he suggested Keith Olsen. So he goes on to describe the problems with Martin Birch's mixes and how un-American they sounded. It's funny, they just use it like it's like an insult. Oh, it's so un-American. It's a bunch of British guys and another British guy mixing them, and it doesn't sound American. And they're doing it not in America.
Boo. Yeah.
British people in not America recording and writing songs and everything, it doesn't sound American. So Olsen had first worked with Callagher with Foreigner. So he had that kind of background. And then Neil Murray finally says that Sykes was very much into Ozzy and Randy Rhoads, that he was really into that sound. So you hear some of that in some of his solos maybe. So the lineup: Neil Murray returns, Cozy on drums again, Mickey on guitars, some, Mel on guitars, some of them got wiped. John Lord on keyboards. Bill Cuomo came in to do some additional keyboards. He had worked with Steve Perry, Rick Springfield, and he was kind of in that circle, so that's why Callagher knew him. And then of course John Sykes. And there's that story too, that he was offered the position to replace Randy Rhoads, but it never like materialized. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, you got the job" or whatever, and then they ghosted him. He never heard back.
Who is this?
Sykes.
Oh yeah. That's, I remember hearing that.
So he was
they ghosted him.
Yeah, he was the replacement for Randy Rhoads for, I don't know, a week, but never actually. I don't know if he even met them. So that's kind of a shitty thing. So I guess he said when they did, Ozzy eventually did get back to him, but by that time he'd accepted the job in Thin Lizzy and was probably thinking Ozzy is a little too much of a maybe not secure enough a position to accept at this point. Then of course we've got on the US version, Martin Birch is just Martin Birch. He's not Big Ears. So I don't know why that title was stripped
because it's very un-American.
Big Ears.
It's very British.
In America, we have very small ears. You see, we can't have this name. So yeah, so this is completely remixed by Keith Olsen. Has different guitar solos to the European edition, with some John Sykes as a third guitar layer. So I've heard both things. I've heard that they took away some of the Mel and Mickey stuff, but also I've heard that they layer John Sykes on top of both of them. So there's three guitars.
I've heard that, yeah.
So it might be a little of both. Maybe it depends on the song. I don't know. And then all the original bass parts were completely redone by Neil Murray.
I don't know why.
New keyboards by Bill Cuomo. Like, why would you touch anything John Lord did? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's I think to I wish I wish I had a sound bite now for Pod of Thunder when they have Juan Cruchet. Are you insane?
Yeah, exactly.
You're
Oh,
replacing John Lord with Bill Cuomo? Are you insane?
that is, yeah, that is the perfect. That would be the perfect soundbite. Um, yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, who would you? I mean, nobody can replace John Lord. It just doesn't make any sense. But I guess he probably doesn't sound American enough. And I think this is, when you talk to a lot of British fans, rightly so, they talk about this era of the band as kind of being like um, they don't like it as much because they started sounding American. So they were giving up one fan base for another, but obviously at the end of the day, worked out very well financially for Whitesnake. They may have given up half of their fans, but they probably gained back 4 times as many. Um, so
So did you say that like he replaced all of John Lord or some?
no, I think it was just additional. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So and before we get started, here's a little. Speaking of American, this is a Geffen Records press release of the album. So you get the little Geffen Records logo, and you open it up. I love these releases. It is highly unlikely that any album released this year will match the hard rock credentials of Whitesnake's debut album on Geffen Records. Slide It In highlights 10 original cuts from a band that boasts some of the most talented and widely experienced musicians in modern rock and roll. Consider founder David Coverdale and John Lord come to the band by way of Deep Purple, a pivotal 70s group. See, it's American, so they have to explain who Deep Purple is. A pivotal 70s group that helped forge the heavy, hard-driving sound of the era. Drummer Cozy Powell hails from another seminal British outfit, Rainbow, while guitarist John Sykes lent his distinctive licks to Thin Lizzy. Mel Galley was recruited to Whitesnake from the popular English band Trapeze, making the ensemble's collective history both influential and impressive. While Whitesnake may be American audience's first real introduction to Whitesnake, the band has been a staple on the European music scene for some time. A series of top-selling albums have brought the band a large and fervent following on the continent, and their incendiary live shows and consistent sellouts in concert halls and festivals. On the occasion of the American release of Slide It In, already a substantial hit in the UK with 2 hit singles, Guilty of Love and Give Me More Time, Whitesnake is barnstorming across Western Europe on an extensive tour that promises to take them to the States later this year. Slide It In, a solid rock manifesto featuring a high-energy tune stack of Coverdale originals, continues Whitesnake's tradition of recruiting the best names in the business. Produced by Martin Birch, renowned for his work with Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple, the album was mixed by Keith Olsen, a name more than familiar to fans of such bands as Foreigner, Fleetwood Mac, and Sammy Hagar. The album contains both Whitesnake's current British toppers, along with such standout cuts as Gambler, Hungry for Love, and the blistering title track. I bust my bollocks for what I do, Coverdale remarks. I get well paid for it, but it's 24 hours a day, 52 weeks a year, non-stop. Slide It In captures whole the incredible energy of one of real rock and roll's leading practitioners.
Okay. So I have some thoughts here.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
If this was the press release trying to downplay the Britishness of all this, they mentioned like British and Europe and like way too many times.
Yeah.
In that they basically played up the fact that they like, hey, everybody's British and they're trying to Americanize them. And to that I say,
Fuck you.
I hope these are coming across.
me too. But yeah, that's really weird because you think like, oh, it doesn't sound American enough. Hey, in the press release, really just play up how everything isn't from America. Thanks.
Mention Europe at least 16 times in the press release.
And then at the very end, talk about Keith Olsen. Talk about sprinkle some American shit in there, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, I
I
think
mean, it's really well written, though. I mean, it actually,
no,
the
it's
way
all
you were
marketing.
reading it, it's just like, I'm like, wow, I'd listen to this. Wow.
Wow, you convinced me. That's all. It's all this marketing fluff. It's yeah, it's good
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I think maybe they just try to at the same time, while trying to become more American, they're also like, oh, this is like a huge band in Europe. So, oh wow, really? I should check them out then if they've been big over there for a while. Because it's funny, even though you want them to Americanize, you've also got this like this fantastical mythological happening, which happened all the time with the Beatles and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all these bands that are huge in England, and the British invasion and all this sort of stuff. So they're probably playing up to that too. Is like, you'll like these plucky Brits will do great over here in the United States.
I just love it if they would do like they do like an American edit, like just like, I bust my bollocks for what I do. I mean, what
Yeah.
more British sentence could you have? They just like
They
the
should have
Americans
put
are like,
balls in brackets. It's like Americans reading this is like, what are bollocks? I don't understand.
it's just like, I bust my balls for what I do.
Yeah, it'd be great if they just threw in like just a bunch of random. This is better than beans on toast for breakfast. Just all this, just throwing all this. I put on my trainers and I jump in the lorry and I go right down the, I right down the street and take a lift up to the studio and get to work. People in America wouldn't know what the hell they were talking about.
It's just like, Whitesnake, the hottest new band in America, is coming to your town. Like, what? What?
I just learned one today, and this will not be this was actually just today. I grew up reading like a lot of like Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams, all these British writers. So like I'm something of an Anglophile, but for some reason I've always missed this one. And I just learned today that, do you know what, in England they call a dumpster?
I'm not sure I do.
They call it a skip.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either. And I was just like, well, probably dumpsters didn't come up very often in like fantasy novels though. So maybe that's why. But yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things maybe I read or I heard and just like my brain just tuned it out, and then all of a sudden you hear it and I'll see it like 12 more times this week.
So you'd be like, wow, this is a real skip fire over here.
I wonder if they do that. We'll have to hear from our, whenever this comes out in like 2 months. In 2 months, I'm going to be flooded with emails and messages about skip, and I'll be like, what are they talking about? I don't remember talking
They'd be
about
like,
that.
yeah, Nate, I throw my rubbish in the skip. You'd be like, what the hell are they talking about?
I throw my rubbish in the skip. It's brilliant. All right, so here's the
brilliant.
Here's the pub.
Look, all right, what's going on with John Lord now? He looks a little different there.
Yeah, so yeah, this is the publicity photo.
Who does he
very high contrast, so it looks almost like they're doing like, you know what I mean, like one of those like glamour shots where you can like, does that woman have a nose or not? I can't tell. They turn up the contrast really high. Yeah, but John Lord's like hair is like a little like almost feathered.
Yeah, he looks like he looks like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You just get him a 2x4. Oh my god!
He's wearing like a velour hoodie, and
like a cross, like.
But his beard is also very trimmed. Like it's usually a little bigger than that. So.
All right.
Like Cozy and Mel's wearing like the 80s, this is the late end of the skinny tie. Coverdale's wearing one too. And then Sykes is posing with that, like he's wearing that, like it looks almost like the because it's in black and white, it looks like the Mariah Carey Santa outfit from
No.
But it's clearly like a leather jacket with like the white fleecy sort of lining.
Oh, and then who's that behind Coverdale? Is that
It's Neil Murray and
Neil Murray.
Cozy.
He looks like my babysitter when I was a kid.
Really?
Well, yeah. You ever see you have that? You ever have a babysitter like the 14-year-old girl with like the hair and then the kind of mullet thing?
Yeah, all my babysitters had that hairdo.
So he looks like my female babysitter when I was like 10. And then you got that dude over on the left. Who's that?
That's Mel Galley.
Wow. All right. Yeah, he looks like he belongs in like, I don't know, what's that, whatever the skinny tie band is. He looks like he belongs on a new wave band. That's why he seems to be separated from everybody else.
Was it like Frankie? What's that? Like,
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Yeah.
Mel Galley Goes to Hollywood.
So
yeah, it's
great.
like John Sykes is really the only one that like kind of looks really glammed out, and everybody else is just kind of like, "Arr."
Coverdale hadn't discovered the peroxide just yet.
No, well, yeah, him and Coverdale look like they fit in. Everybody else is just kind of like, all right, who are the rest of these derelicts back here?
Derelicts. Well, I mean, I think this kind of like they had a pretty, they changed, a couple keyboardists, a couple drummers, but for the most part, Whitesnake was fairly stable up until this point, and this just begins like a 6-year run of who's who coming in the band for not even being on an album, and Vivian Campbell. How long was he in the band? Like 3 weeks. I mean, he wasn't even on an album, was he?
Nope.
He was just in like part of the tour, and then he was out, and
yeah, he was
just
on
coming
the tour,
and going like crazy.
Yeah, he was on the tour, and then he was out before well, I don't know if it was before, but he didn't do 87, and he didn't do Slip of the Tongue either. So
was he between 87 and Slip of the Tongue, or was he just after
no,
Slip of the Tongue?
Between, like, he didn't record the album, but he toured. So like
basically
the whole band behind Coverdale toured on the 87 album, but none of them played on it.
You mean on the slide on the
87?
Oh, the whole band, the band that was on the 87.
Yeah, the whole band that recorded the 87 album, they recorded it, and then a whole different. The Coverdale was the only person that performed on that album that was on the damn tour.
Yeah.
So
it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's like I mean, just like everybody else, I didn't know for the longest time. It was a whole it was a whole Blizzard of Oz situation going on there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's like, and then you learn like all this music by all these people that I love and everything. It's just like it wasn't basically that. It was like this tiny snapshot in time.
Yeah.
That, it's a shame, but anyway, are you ready to? Speaking of this album, are you ready to start getting into some of the tracks?
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't hear that. What was that? Dead air.
Technical difficulties. Ah, shit. I said.
No problemo.
All right. So here we go. We have to, of course, before we do that, thank our core level patrons. Coming in at the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, we have Michael Vader. At the $6.99 New Nice Price tier, we have Fielding Fowler. At the episode $6.66 tier, we have Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, and Anton Glaving. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, we have Kenny Wymore. At the $5.99 New Nice Price tier, Original Nice Price tier, we have Robert Smith, Peter from Illinois, Michael Backford, and Carl Hellberg. And at the $5 Moneylender tier, we have John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Oleksiy the Perfect Stranger Slepikov, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Will Porter, Zwapper the Electric Alchemist, Percival Frequency, and Scott Zerns. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. We could not and would not do it without you. All right. So
let's hit it.
We get a different opener that opens with the titular Slide It In, which was the second track on the UK version. So here we go. Right into it with Slide It In.
Or more volume.
Even more than that? Okay. You good?
There we go.
All right.
You talk too much. Never say what's on your mind. It's written on your face.
So pretty simple bass so far, just kind of following along. A little more chugging here, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, that was different. Was that different? So far, I'm hearing like just a little more treble heavy and a little more reverb on the drums. Not as dry.
Yeah. See, the one thing I don't like is that the bass doesn't play during the verse here, where it doesn't like follow the guitar when it like.
Nice.
That's the one thing that I kind of miss, but the song sounds like it flows a little better. Maybe the way the guitar is played, the way it's mixed.
It's a little more polished sounding. Maybe.
Yeah. Plus he does this little run here.
The boo-doo-doo-doo. That's it. There we go. This must be Sykes, right?
Yeah.
You know, I really hear the Randy sort of influence there.
Yeah.
Some of the patterns and the melodies he was throwing in there. It's very good solo.
I mean, yeah, that was a good solo. I mean, it was different than the original, than the UK, but it still worked really well.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah, never gonna stop.
Right to the top, baby.
No, just one ha.
Just one. Keeping it understated. Save something for later in the album. All right. So that was Slide It In, the US version. John, what do you think of that one?
I'll give it a 4. I really like it. I guess it's going to be hard not to make comparisons, but I'm doing them from memory because remember, did not listen to anything before since last week.
Yep.
So, yeah, one thing that's good about this is, I mean, I think it's a good opener. I really liked Gambler as an opener. I thought that was really good, but starting off with this one, the US version, I think is still strong. I think that maybe it's between the mix and the guitar and the bass parts. It is more polished. It seems to flow a little bit more. Like it loses some of that bluesy edge, but it also flows really well. And some of Sykes' guitar parts, like that run that we talked about when he said "never gonna stop."
Yeah.
That's one that I always miss in the UK version. I listened for it because this was the version that I had heard first. So I knew this one for many years before that. But I also think that the guitar solo was really good. I think both of them work. This one was a little different, but I don't think that it's like it doesn't sound out of place.
No.
Like I said, the one thing that I really do miss though is the bass playing in the verse, mirroring the guitar when it goes do 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 do, which I really love about the UK version. So both of them have strengths.
Which is funny because we're normally like huge Neil Murray guys, but
well, I mean,
again,
I like what he did here too.
I think his fills and everything were great in this, but yeah, I kind of missed it during the verse too. But it could have been maybe not necessarily his idea. They were just telling him what to play. Like, don't play
like,
here, just play on the end
maybe
of each
less is more.
verse. Yeah,
I don't know. But either way, I would say both have strengths. No weaknesses that I could really think of. I guess that would be the one thing that I miss, but I wouldn't say it's a weakness in the song. But yeah, great opener.
I will give this one a 3.5. That's pretty good opener. I think just a little, like I said, I just I feel like right off the bat, like it's just missing a little some like bottom end, and it sounds more polished, but I don't necessarily think that sounds better than it actually is. Like I don't think it's polish in this case is necessarily what it needed. And you know, I earlier today I just kind of dragged all of these versions of these songs into my my digital audio workstation here and kind of lined them up perfectly just to see. And one of the things, I didn't really listen to them much, but one of the things I noticed was there's like a split second of silence before all the US versions, whereas the UK ones start like directly, like bam, is the split second the song starts. The US ones are all delayed slightly. So I could line them directly up so they could play simultaneously, but I had to drag them all back a little bit. And then you'll notice some of the fade outs on this, the fade outs start earlier and go longer. So you probably have a fade out that's twice as long on every song that has a fade out. Because it's just a very long, slow fade out where it's more of a slope. Oop, my microphone. It's more of a sloping fade out with the UK version.
Yeah.
I'm Italian. I talk with my hands.
Yeah, and he got all out of sorts.
It happens.
I got a lot of sorts. I didn't even know what I'm talking about here.
Nice gabagool. All right. So the next track is track 2 is Slow and Easy. This was track 3 on the UK version. So here we go. It's interesting. This is the Mickey Moody vehicle on the UK version. Let's see what they do with it here. I think it's the only Mickey co-write, if I remember correctly. Yes. Kind of get that Nova space documentary sound to the synth there.
That's going to be the original guitar.
Yeah. But I think it sounds like they cranked up the reverb on the guitar.
Did Coverdale re-record any vocals?
I think so.
Because I feel like this is different. I feel like he's singing it a little different here.
Moody sounds like W.G. Snuffy Walden. Get that vibe going to him.
Keep on loving me like I've never known before. I wanna
This one, the bass has more of a presence.
Yeah.
A superstitious mind, and I don't mind, baby. Look out.
Guitar on the right channel there was definitely Sykes.
Pick scrape.
That was definitely Sykes.
Yeah, they really cut out or cut down the keyboards in that part.
Those claps are like super reverberated down. Every so often you hear Sykes in the right channel there, doing a pinch harmonic or just getting a little feedback or something.
Like a little whammy bar. But they don't overdo it though. Like it's not mixed way up.
No, it's super subtle. Oh, that was new to the US version, I think, right?
Well, I don't think there was anything there, but
The Coverdale screen there.
no, I mean Sykes.
But that thing you just did, that. Americans are so sensitive; they have to change everything for American sensibilities. It sounds too British. I can't listen to it. It doesn't have enough reverb. This is still Moody, yeah.
Yeah.
Mel Galley, I think. Did they leave the Mel Galley?
Yeah, but I feel like they took some of the oomph out of it.
Yeah, I'm hearing more ride cymbal than lead.
So take me down slow and easy. Make love to me slow and easy.
It sounds like it came in late or they forgot to come in.
Slow and easy.
An extra bar in there somewhere.
Rock me till I'm back to the bone. And take me down slow and easy. Make love to me slow and easy. I know that all love and trouble is coming my way. So rock me till I'm back to the bone. So take me down slow and easy. Make love to me slow and easy.
Overall, I'd say the changes to the song so far have been pretty subtle.
To the bone.
There's like some keyboards kind of lingering there. I think that was same as the UK version. They kind of like, it's almost like
Yeah.
they've been playing the whole time the song was going, but you couldn't hear them because it was too loud. So whenever the band shuts up, you hear there's like, oh, they're still noodling on that.
The band
that
shuts up.
That Nova documentary recorded.
Uh,
All right, what do you think of Slow and Easy?
I'll give it a 4. I think this is I don't know what I rated the other one, but
No.
this
Can't
is
wait to find out.
probably like, this is my preferred version of this.
Okay.
I just think that it lends itself better to the playing on this, in terms of Sykes playing on it. I think all of the kind of all the stuff that he does, even though it's not really pronounced, but when he's like comes in and does the pick slide, or when he bends the note really high and gives it the whammy like in between the verses and everything, that really lends itself to this song. And then the mix too sounds more upfront and powerful when they're doing the bass drum and the claps, especially when
Yeah.
all the music cuts out. It sounds like it has a little bit more behind it, which this being the prequel to Still of the Night type of song,
Yeah.
it works a lot better, I think, of the two versions. And I could still hear the keyboards in it, but it sounds like they mixed them down and they kind of the guitars were more pronounced, which, I think a song like this really needs. It benefits from it. So
All right. I'm gonna give this one another 3.5. To me, I don't find it as the look of disapproval I'm getting. I don't. To me, it doesn't. So far from what I'm hearing in this album, it sounds more distant, a little thinner, a little more trebly, and for me, it's not working quite as well. Still, again, the songs aren't wildly different, but to me, it's really the only. And Sykes' playing is good. Murray's playing is good. It just for some reason it's not hitting quite the same way. But
yeah,
might not be
definitely
like-
not as bluesy, not as raw, I guess you could say. The one thing I didn't like about it was how they mixed the original guitar solos in there. It almost sounded like they didn't really. You may as well just have recorded new ones.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell if like Sykes was playing at the very end for like a couple bars or if that was still Mel Galley. Just not familiar enough with the album for that. But yeah, at any rate, yeah, it's nothing major in that song. So let's go on to the next track, which is, of course, this was track 4 on the UK version. It's track 3 here, Love Ain't No Stranger. Great. This, I think I might have mentioned this last week. This sounds like
Who
the
knows where the
warm up for
cold
1987.
goes? I ask my friends, but nobody knows. Who am I to believe in love? Oh, love ain't no stranger. I looked around.
Sounding very American so far.
Broken-hearted people staring at me, all searching 'cause they still believe. Oh, love ain't no stranger. I was alone and I needed love. So much I sacrificed all I was dreaming of. I heard no warning, but a heart can tell. I feel the emptiness of love I know so well.
This wasn't bigger in the U.S.
Love ain't no stranger.
This seems like it could have been big. Maybe this might have been just like a few years too early.
Yeah.
I ain't no stranger to love. No, no, no.
That no was more pronounced in this version than it was in the UK one. That's one thing that I always remembered.
Soul in need. I look for mercy when my heart begins.
Did he re-record? I think he re-recorded the vocals for this. Because it sounds different.
Maybe. Apparently this made it to number 33 in the U.S., so it did pretty well.
Love ain't no stranger. I ain't no stranger.
Well, this is the one that has the cover for the single. It just has Coverdale, Sykes, Powell, and Murray. Here we go.
I think this is Galley still.
Well, it sounds to me like it would be Sykes.
Who knows where the cold
I feel like the drums in this song don't have as much punch either. Is it just me?
nobody knows. Who am
I haven't been paying attention to the drums, to be honest. I'll have to listen.
Lord have mercy. Love ain't no stranger.
Man, I think that was a Sykes solo, and it's
No stranger.
very understated from what you'd expect from a quote guitar hero back those days.
I feel like it was Mel Galley.
And I needed love. So much I sacrificed all I was dreaming of.
You know, if we were smart, we probably would have like a sheet in front of us telling us who did what.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to say. Like I've actually looked. It's hard to find distinctively who soloed what. I think if I was more familiar with the album, I would notice the differences a little more clearly. Do a bonus episode of the side by sides of all these little moments of the songs to compare the difference.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe. You know, my copious amounts of free time this week. I can do it.
I ain't no stranger.
This was definitely an alternate vocal performance.
Could have
I'm saying it is.
been. I'm saying it might be. All right, what do you think of Love Ain't No Stranger?
You know, I can't remember what I gave the first version, but I'm going to give this one a 3.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like it didn't have as much behind it as the UK one. Like there's something in here that's missing for me. I really feel like it's a different vocal performance from Coverdale, and I don't know if I like it as much.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Yeah, it sounds like a little, you know, when you do that first take and it's like, yeah, that was it. It almost sounds like he went back and it wasn't the better take. It was just the US take, whichever one they went with. It lacks something.
He sounds
So
very American in this. He sounds like he would be calling that thing out back a dumpster. So we should probably go with this take.
it wasn't bad. I mean, I still love the song, but it sounds like there's like that's something that's missing there. So
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't throw the song in the skip, but it's pretty good. I'll give it another 3.5. So far, just it's all good. I mean, the songwriting's just as good, but to me, so far, again, not really remembering last week too vividly. I don't know. I had a little bit more I felt a little more excitement last week,
mhm.
and this week it's more kind of just like, that's the changes are so small, but yet noticeable enough that it's to me it's kind of like, why would you bother even making this change? And the answer is, of course, because you've got an American record label that wants you to sound more American.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I almost like I'm trying to be as fair as I can. But I mean, it's kind of hard to not compare this to last week's. Like if we listened to this one last week, how would we be judging the UK version this week? So
Yeah, I mean, I've always preferred. I mean, again, I haven't listened to the US version in a while, but I've always thought that I preferred the UK version. And
Me
who knows,
too.
I might be surprised by the end of this, and the overall score for the UK version or US version might be higher, but so far it's not seeming that way, but we'll see. All right. Next track up is, of course, All or Nothing. This is track 4. It was track 8. So it was on the second side on the UK version. Those like drum hits sound weak. Like they're not in your face. Which is funny because I find like on the 87 version of Here I Go Again, like I find that da-da-da-da-da-da, like that part's really much more in your face than the UK version. So
this one sounds mean.
yep, that was really snarly.
This one's really
bass line.
rocking.
Can we take away the piano here?
Yep. Or it's really mixed down.
Yeah. I can't tell if my brain is just filling it in, like because it's
Yeah.
expecting it, or if it's
No,
just not there.
I hear Lord in the background.
No, I heard that like
The little
really
pinch
mixed down.
harmonic.
Did a cool little run there too. Maybe the piano is
I
there.
see their face trying to listen to the piano.
I'm squinting. I've got my eyes closed. I'm trying here, but it's so quiet if it's there. The solo's just lost here. You hear snare drum just completely blocking it out.
I feel like they filled in with some electronic drums or some overdubs or something.
It's just a reverb. I mean, to me, all you heard was the drums on that.
Yeah.
Like, I get that they wanted the keyboards to take more of a backstage. No, that's. But I was saying, I get that they want the keyboards to come more to the back and be not as much of a focus. But during a solo, you've got to still, if you're going to leave the solo in there, you've got to have it take center stage.
I mean, either that or just wipe it out and throw a guitar solo in there. Don't do that to it.
Right. Yeah. Kind of shit or get off the pot sort of situation. Shit or get off the skip.
Shit or get off the loo.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Sorry.
The skip. Who shits in a dumpster? Well, I mean, besides a bum.
Hobos, drifters, all these kinds of guys shit in dumpsters.
Yeah, I probably should have
Actually,
went there instead.
if they go in a dumpster, count that as a lucky day because usually it's somewhere else.
like the entrance to a grocery store.
When I was working in New York, we were open to the public where I worked, and there was like this. It wasn't supposed to be accessible to customers, but there was this there were bathrooms there, and it was New York City, very very busy area. There were really not a lot of public restrooms, so we had a bathroom I think with like 2 stalls and a urinal, and then I don't know what was in the women's room. But for all people in New York that we needed to use the bathroom, they would come in. So it was always a line. It was always difficult. And this one day, I went off in one of the back hallways beyond the restroom, and there was just a giant mound of crap on the floor, just sitting there because somebody had just been like, "Well, the line's too long. I'm going back here."
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
But they would have events in the park, like across the street, and like everyone would just come in and be like, "Oh, we'll just go there to use the bathroom." And you work there, and you're like, "Hey, man, I gotta go to the bathroom too." It was rough.
Well, that sucks.
Anyway,
yeah, this has
All or
been
nothing.
Shit Talk with Nate and John.
shit talk. we are shit talkers.
Hey, all right. I will give
Ladies
this.
and gentlemen, he is deep in thought. He is massaging his chin as if it was a genie's lamp.
All right. I really like this one, but I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Mhm.
I feel like I like this one more overall than the UK version. It had more punch behind it. I think because of the bass and the guitar, the way it was mixed, it sounded meaner, it sounded heavier.
Sure.
But had to deduct a half a point for what they did to John Lord's solo there. They friggin' butchered it. I mean, and I really feel like I heard a drum fill or something that was either punched in or was an electronic drum right before the solo.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you caught it, but it sounded weird. It sounded artificial.
According to what I've read, it doesn't sound like they did anything with the drums, but you never know.
Well, maybe it was the way that they mixed it, but something sounded off about it. If they didn't do anything to like re-recording any drums or putting in anything new, it definitely was the mix, because we definitely heard the drums like way up front during Lord's solo.
Maybe it's a fill you missed the first time because your focus was on John Lord's solo, but they brought it down so low that now your focus is on. All I could like visualize in my head was just a big snare drum during that whole solo, and it was really it was a bummer.
Yeah.
It was distracting. But I will match your 3.5 on this one. I'm kind of a broken record so far. But yeah, I like the track, but to me that ding 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 ding, those like quarter note chords that he's plucking out on the piano is such a crucial part of the song. And honestly, I don't think, if you didn't listen to the UK version, I don't think you'd even pick it out. But my brain was kind of filling in where it was supposed to be, and I think it was still there, but super super low. And then the solo in general, like you said, it's all or nothing. Okay, all or nothing. Either you go all in on a John Lord solo, or don't have anything, or put something else there, but don't have John Lord solo. It's kind of this like, I don't know what you would call it, this kind of arrogant, like keyboards are stupid, guitars are awesome, so we're just gonna mix it low in the mix. Like, who are you serving by putting a solo that low in the mix?
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound good.
Although I have to say that though I love me some John Lord, I think the thing that I like about this version was not hearing those piano, that
Really?
piano, in the in the chorus. I think that it kind of made it more straight ahead and hard hitting. I mean, I think in this version, I think it would have weakened it, for lack of a better word.
That was like a highlight of the song for me, but
I mean, I like the fact that it was maybe mixed down, or we were we were hearing it when it wasn't there. Who even knows? But
Yeah, right.
I liked hearing this version without it, because I think it would have, it wouldn't have sounded right in this version. I think it would have taken away from what this version of the song was trying to do, which was be more American.
oh, American. Buffy, Lovey. Let's go out to the marina, have some martinis. Okay.
We're not saying this is yacht rock here.
No, that's just like, well, it's rich American kind of nonsense. My favorite thing is in like in a British show where they do like they have an American, but they had just a British guy do like a really bad American accent. It's so great because they just pronounce their R's really like. I remember there's this episode of you ever see Jeeves and Wooster?
Oh.
There's like there's this one episode where like their American cousin or something, and he's like, "Oh, I think he's hanging out with those gingers over there," you know. And it's and for one thing, no one in America uses the term ginger to describe a redhead. That's like exclusively British things. That's the first tell, and then the second one is just a lot of R's thrown in there. Not that my British accent would be any better, mind you, but it's just funny. But then you've got like people like Hugh Laurie and House and stuff, which like I bet 75% of America doesn't even realize he's British. You know, some actors are just do phenomenal accents, but usually in lower budget stuff, not so much. Okay, so the final track of side one on the US version is the last track. I'm sorry, is the first track on the UK version, and that is the song "Gambler." I think we talked about this last week, how it is kind of an interesting choice to start off an album because it's very slow build up.
I don't know how I feel about this as the ending of side one. Maybe the beginning of side two.
It's funny. Yeah, this would be a great side opener.
Like the guitar's got a little more flange on it, a little heavier. Glad they kept Lord's keyboard part in there, although it's a little mixed back.
Yeah, it sounds like it's got a different tone to it. He doesn't have the vocals doubling in there.
Yeah.
Took that out. Sykes guitar there. I can't tell if it's just because I like
No, the
UK
vocals are
version better,
double, but it's a little.
missing the additional vocals. 'Cause I thought we commented last week about how great those were.
Yeah.
And Galley and Coverdale together, honestly, I wish we had more of that in the Whitesnake catalog because it's such a great duo. And honestly, I kind of wish those Sykes parts were mixed up too. Like, they're so far in the background. Like,
There we
if you want
go.
to be American, don't be subtle. Americans aren't subtle.
No, Americans are over the top.
It's all about flash. Like the Colin Towns, I think we talked about this last week, Colin Towns-ish sort of solo from Lord. That's gonna be Sykes.
Coverdale's vocals sound like they're drier here. There's something more. There's something not as gritty about them in this mix.
Double track here.
Yeah, it's a little more subtle, but
He wasn't at the beginning of the song, right? Or am I imagining?
no, he was.
He was? Okay. But was it double tracked with Galley on the UK?
I don't know.
Still a very, yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It seems like a better opener for a side than a closer. But,
Yes, kind of curious, I say.
most curious. So what do you rank this one?
Boy, this is getting tough.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, because there's some good stuff about it. I'll give it a no, not a 305. I'll give it a
Throw off our
305.
rating spreadsheet.
Ooh, I'll give it a 3.5. Yeah, there are things that I like about this version. I like that the background vocals, the call and response vocal or whatever it is that he does that comes in and later on in the second verse, I think. I think is mixed up a little bit more. I always liked that in this version. But the lead vocals and his doubled vocals, they sound different. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if they have as much power behind them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do like the guitar has more behind it as well. And I like how they pretty much maintain the integrity of John Lord's keyboard, at least at the beginning. I mean, you could definitely tell they're mixed down a little bit, like during the verse and everything. But yeah, I mean, I always thought this was a great song, but I really loved it as the album opener.
Yeah.
I think the placement in this version, in this mix, is very unfortunate.
All
I
right.
don't know if I really love it as a side closer.
I agree. But I will give it a 4 still because I really do love the song. I don't remember what I gave it last time. Maybe it was a 4 as well. But if I had to say off the top of my head without listening or looking at my ratings, I would say I prefer the UK version for a number of reasons. But yeah, it's still a solid song, really cool. But yeah, the placement on the album, this is the first one to me that jumps in as like slide it in. Opening it with the title track is a great thing. Nothing else jumped at me as being a weird, even though every track on the album is in a completely different spot. There's not a single track on this album that's in the same spot as the UK version. Why they had to move everything around, I have no idea. It's too European to open with that. We have to open with this, or who knows what nonsense they were talking about. But this is the first one that jumped out at me as being, I don't like the placement on it. But that's just me. All right, ready to flip this platter over and get on to side 2?
Yeah.
You were looking for an Arnold response. You just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, that's
Caught you off guard. Oh, here, let me. John, are you ready to listen to the next side of this album? I didn't catch that.
well, let's wait a minute. Let's try this again.
Okay, hey, John, are you ready to flip this album over and listen to the second side?
Hello, cutie pie.
It's like I'm talking to Arnold himself. All right,
That's as close as you're gonna get.
probably. Track 6, Guilty of Love.
I believe my love for you is a love that will last forever. And
So far, so good.
Baby, don't you believe when I tell you I love you, that I really mean it. Don't you walk away, don't turn your back on me. I'm guilty of love. It's a crime of passion, guilty of love. I'm the slow down.
You can hear the Sykes guitars, but it's definitely so far not much different. Hi-hat seems a little heavy in the mix.
I don't know. I kind of like that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I noticed that, but I kind of like it.
It's a little born again-ish to me.
I mean, I like the way that that all mixes together, and you got the keyboards and the guitars sit really well in this mix. Oh, damn it. Now all I can hear is the hi-hat. Thanks a lot.
Sorry. Yeah, it's hard to tune it out once it gets brought to your attention. To me, it's like when it goes to the ride cymbal, it's like, oh, thank God, I need a break, you know, like, and I don't remember feeling that with the UK version.
You know what? I think wasn't that Mel Galley who said in the first degree, who sang in the first degree?
I missed it, maybe.
No, but I mean in the original, I think Coverdale
Oh.
sings it now, and Galley's singing it in the original. So I wonder if they cut out all of his background vocals.
A little more chugging from Sykes, I think. Most of that chuggy stuff has got to be him. Another one, I think, of those longer fade outs. Well, maybe not on this one.
I like that.
All right. So what do you
I
think
like it a
of
lot.
Guilty of hi-hats? What do you think?
Oh, guilty of hi-hats. Oh, Nate. What a bunch
Oh,
of
rather.
bollocks. What a bunch of bollocks.
So are you going to keep this one or are you going to throw it in the skip?
I think I'll keep it.
right.
I'm having a hard time with some of these because now you made me think of the friggin' hi-hat, but
Sorry.
you know what though? I don't
That's all I
care.
could think of.
I don't care. It's getting a 4.
All right.
I'm guilty of 4. I think that this version is very heavy. I think it's kind of like all or nothing in the way that just from memory, I think that this mix and having Sykes on it and everything just adds a little bit of that heaviness that the song lacked on the UK version. And I mean there were some songs on that album that definitely benefit from the bluesier playing, the different production, but I think that these kind of songs, heavier, kind of more straight ahead, benefit from the production that I got on this version. So hi-hat or no, I enjoy this version.
All right. Well, I will also give it a 4, despite the hi-hat. I think it's a great song. Really good song. Good length in and out. It's just yeah, it's solid. It's a good performance. I would say that the hi-hat is really the only thing to me that was really distracting about the song because, and like I said, you notice it most when he goes to the ride cymbal. It just feels like relief. Like, I get to take a break now from listening to that hi-hat. And then when it comes back, you're like, like, so it almost gives you more of a reward for the chorus than the original because it's a reprieve from that monotonous, endless, trebly silverware drawer sounding hi-hat.
Well, I mean, I kind of liked it. Like I was kind of hearing it as a in the mix, the tapestry of the music until you pointed it out, and then it's all I could hear. But
Yeah.
I felt like it made it just had added to it. It made it heavy, yeah, driving, I guess you could say.
All right. Fair enough. Well, you've been guilty of love before, but have you been hungry for love? Because that's the next track. Oh, I'm sorry. I take it back. This is the only track that has the exact same track position as the first album. Hungry
Ah.
for Love is the second track on side 2. Here we go. And there's one other track. I'm an idiot. So there's 2 tracks. I was so definitive in saying it, I even convinced myself. A decent amount of organ in this.
Yeah, but I can hear that the organ and the bass are kind of mixed together to create a little bit of a different sound.
Yeah. Great bass line.
Yeah, I kind of like the swag of the song a little bit better. See right here, the bass and the organ kind of work together there. Kind of like that.
Is that Larson Wrights playing that riff?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's got a little more tone of it and everything.
I just can't get enough, baby. I'm hungry for love.
Nothing crazy different in this one.
Isn't there a guitar solo in the other one?
I doubt it.
I thought there was.
Maybe they put in an extra verse or something. I'll have to get back.
Or they cut it out. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I thought that there was a guitar solo before after the bridge. At least in the original version. I don't know.
Could be. I don't know. But what do you
I
what do you
can't
think of Hungry
remember.
for Love?
Well, this one's good. I was gonna rate it a little bit lower, but then I thought,
No deal.
All right.
So I'm gonna give this one a 4. I really like it. It was very classic Whitesnake
Yeah.
with the riff and the kind of the gang vocal chorus. But I really like the way that the presuming Sykes guitar adds to it. And then in the chorus, when he sings Hungry for Love, and the bass and the keyboard do that part together, dun, 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 it's really simple, but it blends together really well. It's one of those things that I can definitely notice, like sonically adds to the song. And like I said, it has a real swag to it that maybe the first one maybe didn't, which is kind of weird because you figure that a more classic bluesy Whitesnake song, the original bluesier Whitesnake, would have done better. But I feel like I like this one more by a little bit.
All right, Hungry for Love. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I like it. Sounds good. The hi-hats again were a little bit like they were EQ'd the same way, but it seems like they were a little lower in the mix, which made it a little more tolerable for me. But overall, yeah, like you said,
Stop
it's like it's if your noise gate's cutting these sound clips out, it's gonna be very
It's going to be really, this is going to be an avant-garde episode. We're both going to be laughing and reacting to
where
nothing.
we just pause. Yeah, we keep pausing for 2 seconds and then laughing. So yeah, I find the hi-hat better on this one. Because it EQ'd a little bit better. It was EQ'd probably the same, but the volume was a little bit lower, a little more easy to tolerate for me anyway. But like you said, classic Whitesnake song, so super like it's almost like the quintessential Whitesnake song.
Yes.
Okay, next track up is called "Give Me More Time," and this was the side 1 closer on the UK version. More of the AC/DC riffs. That's got a different sound to it. Some guitar licks there. But I still honestly think if that's what they were going for, they should have done it more like a Randy Phil and had it like up in the mix.
Yeah. If
Randy Rhoads had lived, do you think he would have been a Whitesnake at some point? I mean, I think the odds are pretty high because he was a guitar player in the world.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, we have heard all the stories about how he wanted to.
Gillan.
Huh?
I almost said Rainbow, but well, I did say Rainbow. But would he have been Whitesnake or Gillan?
Well, I feel like he was going to leave Ozzy to pursue more classical guitar
He would have
stuff.
come back eventually. He would have run out of money and had to pick up some gigs, I think.
Maybe. Or he could have been one of those guys that kind of did solo albums in between picking up gigs like this, like kind of like a Tommy Bolin.
Yeah. So here we go.
Hell yeah.
See more of those Randyisms, I think. feel like the backing vocals here are a little heavier on the UK mix too.
Yeah, I feel like we picked up the background vocals. We were really gushing over them more on the UK version.
Yeah, it felt a little more like I was almost thinking it was harkening back to almost Mark III. You know, if they just had a little bit more galley. The more galley, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's because Coverdale had that kind of vocal interplay with them, similar to what he had to Hughes.
Yeah, and I think whenever you've got a situation where you've got two vocalists who are not only the voices sound different, but they the timbre of them or the EQ of them is in such a different range. Like you've got like McCartney and Lennon, you've got like this super like smooth boopity boopity sort of, and then like a really nasally. These are my great impressions of McCartney, boopity boopity, Lennon. But you know, you've got like a smooth as silk kind of melodic voice with like a really more nasally head voice, and then you know with Coverdale you've got that gravelly, gruff blues deep voice with like a smooth higher register voice. Like it works really well. Like when you've got two vocalists together that have similar sounding voices. To me, I don't enjoy that interplay quite as much.
Well, I don't think that I had or we have heard a Whitesnake album that had as defined two vocalists as we have this one, the UK version, because we were talking about him and Mel Galley together, almost like we were talking about him and Hughes.
Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't as forward on it, like they weren't sharing lead verses or anything like that.
No, but when they sang together with Martin Birch at the board, it just kind of took me back to that. Great stuff. All right, give me more time. What do you think?
I'll give it a 3.5. I think it's definitely a good track. I loved the Sykes guitar solo. I think it worked really well in here, and I think it was all mixed really well. When Cozy was doing those drum fills in the background during the solo, it was all kind of working together, almost like they all were playing it live.
Yep.
The only thing that I didn't like about either version is the opening riff, because it is a good riff, but it was almost like lacking something. Like you said, it sounds like an AC/DC riff. And when you hear like that, those opening chords to like a say like an AC/DC song, or even this, it's like it sounds big and full and everything. And when you hear this one, I almost wanted it to be like heavier on both versions, because you're like and then you it's like it lacks some kind of balls. Like they could have
Some kind of
thickened
bollocks.
up exactly. It would lack some bollocks. Or like they could have thickened up the chords, like played like the full chords instead of I'm assuming you just played like power chords, and it sounded a little wimpy.
A little wimpy. No wimpy
Yeah.
guitars, please.
Well, I mean when they were doing the verse, but in that beginning, that intro, like the intro on both versions, now that I've had time to let it sit with me, just kind of they lacked a little bit. They could have used a little thickening up in the playing, I think.
That's fair enough. I will give this one a 4. I really love this song. I love both versions. I think we'll see what I gave the other one. But yeah, it's I think it's a great track. Not noticing as many of the little different. Maybe I'm just getting used to the production style by this point, but yeah, I'm not noticing as much discrepancies with the original as I was with previous tracks. Okay, so the penultimate track is next. This one also was track 9, or the second to last track on the album on the UK version, and this one is, of course, the super subtle "Spit It Out." It's interesting because on the UK version, it starts right there with the full band.
Yeah.
And here it starts with the guitar intro, which is the same exact thing they did on the previous song. So it kind of makes it sound a little more formulaic. They started 2 songs in a row the exact same way. put like the two most AC/DC songs right together on the album.
Wow.
It's, pinch harmonica, whatever it was. Mel Galley thing, yeah.
Okay, good. They kept him.
And he's a little low. I get Coverdale's the lead singer,
I just like I know what they're doing, and that's why I'm laughing.
yeah. Ooh, there you go.
All right, that's cool.
Really feeling himself on this one. Ooh, that sounds kind of interesting. Like, sounds like a chorus effect on that.
Nice.
I never knew what a kiss could mean till the first time I kissed.
Well, I always like this part. It's like the trapeze part.
You took my love in the
Yeah.
palm of your hand and showed me what I
This is a Mel Galley co-write on this one.
Your sweet caress and tenderness can take the pain away. The things that you do
Keyboards are sounding
make a
very.
queen out of you.
Those might be Bill Cuomo. I'm not
Make
sure.
me a king for a day. If you don't like it, spit it out.
Oh, there you go. That part was new. I think that transition into the guitar solo.
Now I know what your love can do. I'll be hanging round your door. And I'm gonna love you, baby. I'm gonna give you more than you're looking for. Spit it out. Spit it out. Spit it out. If you don't
So far seems like the most Americanized song.
Yeah.
spit it out. If you don't like it, spit it out. If you don't spit it out, honey, if you don't spit it out, if you don't spit it out, if you don't spit it out, if you don't spit it out,
And again, another. Maybe it's a longer fade on this one. I can't tell. All right, Johnny, spit it out. What do you think?
I know I laughed at this one in the last review, but I'm giving this a 4.
All right.
I don't know if I'm just Stockholm syndrome or I'm just started to identify with this song, but for some reason, I really like this version. I feel like I like this version a lot more. I think that like Mel Galley is still in there, and you're right, he is mixed back a little bit, but
Yeah.
it like sonically it sounds better, and I like that the guitar is mixed up, and that there are some of the songs where the keyboard is mixed back a little bit, or it's just part of the whole mix of the song and it's not as out front. And I think in a song like this, it does benefit it. It's just, it's overall, it's heavier, and it doesn't feel as, I don't know how, because it's the same exact lyrics and everything, but it doesn't sound or feel as hokey as the other one. Maybe it's just the power of the music or the mix. But there are some things in here that I do like a little a bit better than the original one.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. Yeah, for some reason, yeah, I don't know. I don't Stockholm syndrome, or maybe it's just being more used to it after just hearing it last week, but um yeah, it seemed to be better suited to that kind of production, the whole trope of this song than it
Hmm.
was, it seemed a little more over the top last week. Maybe we're just crazy and it's just as over the top, but yeah, I'll stick with a 4 on this one. It's
And
pretty
it had a
solid.
it had a lot of the Sykes guitar fills in there, very
That
very
was cool.
80s,
Yep.
very. And I never really realized about the album either how kind of in the background they are. They're not like up front in your face.
Right.
Um, so
I'm just
I
thinking
kind
of
of
like
like how subtle
like
they, a little
like
more
Flying
subtle
High Again, where like every other uh line Randy's throwing out, he's throwing all these, and it's like just as loud as his guitar solo.
there. Yeah.
Maybe it's because these songs weren't necessarily written with that in mind, so it would have been stepping a
Hmm.
little bit too much on the vocals. So they're like, the compromise was we wanted to have that as an element, but we have to mix it down a little so it doesn't cut into every single line that gets delivered.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would make it
I
better.
think you'll hear that more in the '87 album where they wrote it with that intention and with just these musicians doing that one mix. Whereas these were, for lack of a better term, tacked on,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
and they didn't want it to sound tacked on, you would assume.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably it. All right, give me 1 second here. Just gonna restart my thing. All right. Okay, so that brings us to the final track on the album, the one to close it all out, and that is, of course, this was the opener to side 2 on the UK version. It's the closer of side 2 on the US version, and that is "Standing in the Shadow." Great, great side opener.
I'm running away from the feeling, hiding my face in the sand.
Guitar sounds a little
It does have that ending album feel though.
yeah, it works well as a closer in a way that Gambler did not on the side 1. It's got like a piano in the right channel there. That sounds.
I'm glad that they preserved the integrity of the original vocals with that low vocal under the chorus, and then Mel Galley doing the high part.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Some nice pinch harmonics. The bass is really kicking in this too.
Yeah. Did it sound like Mel Galley was singing that lower? Can you tell? I was hearing the Crazy Train solo at the beginning what he was doing. Like I don't know if it's because we mentioned it, but I just keep hearing all these Randy Rhoads style things that he's throwing in there. Like a bluesier, slower, more deliberate Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
drum part sounded weird. I don't know if that's on the original. Jumped out a little bit more to me.
Yeah, I think drums are mixed a little in the back.
I think this version's a bit longer because of the longer fade out. All right, that's "Standing in the Shadow of Love" to close out the album. What do you think of that track?
I think that was great. I'll give it a 4.
All right.
I think I liked it as much as I liked the original version. It seemed to have maintained a lot of the same elements. I didn't really hear too much different in there. Maybe a couple of those guitar fills in the background from Sykes, but I mean, I really like the fact that what makes the song is the 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 high and the low vocals
Yeah.
in the chorus, and those are maintained. Those are kept in here.
And I couldn't tell if there was that one time it was like "standing in the shadow of standing in." It sounded like Mel Galley was doing it exactly the same
Hmm.
notes. So I don't know if they overdid it because I seem to remember the UK version being more like "standing in the shadow." Like he was going up higher when
Yeah.
Coverdale was doing that lower delivery. But maybe that was just one
Hmm.
verse where he did it, and maybe it's from the UK version too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that I maybe didn't like overall was I really feel like the drums were just kind of mixed more in the background, which is kind of overall, I think, which is kind of a crime when you have Cozy Powell playing on an album.
Yeah, because he's got such power, and it comes. Some of the drums sound a little weak in a lot of spots, and that's a quite a feat to make Cozy Powell sound weak.
But I'm wondering if that was all part of the more quote American mix to make everything kind of sound more all together rather than you picking out one kind of one track or something like that, which is probably why they didn't really mix up. I mean, if you think about it, there was really nothing that was really too prominent on any of the tracks. The like the Sykes guitar parts and stuff like that, like nothing really stood out. I mean, too much. There were a couple of tracks where it's like, whoa, that's like those hi-hats, like
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
But
Well, I would say they were maybe trying to put like a US post production on the drums, like with a little extra reverb to get that kind of big booming sound. But I think in the fact it wasn't recorded with that as a goal. So as a result, you get something
Right.
that doesn't quite sound like what they're
Originally,
shooting
yeah.
for. Whereas if it was recorded, not just mixed in the US, they would have mic'd the drums a little differently and done some things like that. And it was just after the fact, it's too late to kind of correct too much for that. But
Right.
I will give this one a 4.5 because I love the song, even if I think I prefer the UK version. We'll see what my ratings say. But that would be my only criticism of it. Is it's just I I love the song. I don't know that I care. Um, I don't know that there's anything you could do to the song that would make me give it any less than that. It's just a really strong song.
And I mean, I think it's great too, is like I mean, it works as an album closer too, because you kind of have that, there's something about the way the song starts. It has a sound of finality about it. And then the way that it fades out on the chorus, it's just it feels really appropriate for the ending of an album.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that part I think was, they got it right.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, while John fumbles with the spreadsheet, and this got a lot of fumbling to do this week because we got this. This is gonna be a lot of math going on, like very complicated.
Heyo.
But while he does that, I will do something, which is to thank our foundation level patrons. Coming in at the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we have Raf Calf, Spike the Rock Cat, and Spike's mom. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gordeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Duncan Leask, Stuart McCord, Flight of the Rat Bat Blue Light, Ivan Fieldboo,
It's a great life if you know we can.
Runar Simonsen,
It's a great life if you know we can.
JJ Stannard, and Ruinous Inadequacies. And at the $1 made up name tier, we have the Spill It Out Leaky Mausoleum, Stephen Somerville the Concerto 1999 Fanatic, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel, Blackmore Tights, and John Maselli.
Oh, yeah. You got a pencil?
All right.
What?
Oh, he's asking for a pencil. I don't know. I don't know his business. All right. Thank you so much to all of you for all of your generous support to the Deep Purple podcast. And without any further ado,
We're just busting out the spreadsheet, and he's fumbling with the tabs. Oops, he sorted it the wrong way. Now he can't tell what is bad.
all right, John, where does the U.S. mix of Slide It In, what album are we doing? Slide It In rank in our
Help.
album rankings?
All right, wait a minute, because I'm trying to do a couple of different things here. Don't mess
Oh,
with me
boy.
right now. Okay, so all right, so we're going to start off by overall. So it gets us 7.55, which looks
Ooh,
to be
that's
like
quite-
right about dead center of our ratings.
Okay.
So that's that is good. Let me see. You and I basically liked it the same. You had something that was like 0.5. Yeah, 0.05 higher than mine rating here. So
I was
we're
0.5 higher than you. I thought I was being a little less generous, but
yeah,
Okay.
just a little bit.
all right.
Yeah, so we're in between James Gang Bang and Gillan Glory Road.
Okay. In good company.
Yeah. So now, as to how they rank against each other, so probably no surprise, we ranked the UK release higher.
A lot higher
Um,
than I would have thought, though.
Was it 8.30? And
To a
this
7.55.
to a 7.55.
Wow.
And yep. And yeah, so my individual rankings goes UK 4.20 to 3.75 for the US, and yours is 4.10 to 3.80.
Okay.
So I mean, so the UK version, I liked it a little higher, like by 0.10 than you. So
Yep.
our variances were almost kind of the same. Mine more in favor of the UK, and yours more in favor of the US, even though the US one was lower.
Yeah. Even though, in the overall, we both preferred the UK.
Right. Now, yeah. So overall, yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's any surprise that. Now, if we go back to, can we go back to the individual songs? Do you want
Yeah.
to?
The songs. Yeah.
Let me see. Are they? Okay.
So yeah, you've got yeah. So since
Okay.
they're not in the same order, it's a little
All right. So give me a sec here because I can figure this out. All right. So. Yep. Already, I can. I mean, I could just give kind of a rough.
Yeah, we don't have to go
Thing
through every
is-
track.
Yeah, but Gambler, we rated the UK higher,
We both gave it a 4.5.
right? Slide It In, we both rate. Well, I gave Slide It In UK a 5, and I said that and that's funny because I said that I think that I preferred the US Slide It In, and I gave
So
it lower.
that just proves to you folks, in case you thought we were lying, we don't remember what we did last week.
And we don't know what we're talking about.
That's a given. If people
Yeah.
are listening, even if this is their first episode and they've made it this far, they've already determined we don't know what we're talking about.
Standing in the Shadow, you rated it the UK and the US the same. I rated the UK a little bit higher.
Sure.
Give Me More Time. I rated the UK a lot higher, 4.5, a whole point higher, and you rated it the same. Love Ain't No Stranger. We both rated the US lower, and we gave the UK both a 4. We
Yeah.
both gave it a 4. Slow and Easy. Looks like wow, we rated them the same. We each
Bizarre,
rated
yeah.
Slow and Easy the same.
Oh yeah, we did both the same.
Yep. Spit It Out. Yep. You rated Spit It Out the same. I gave it a little less on the UK version. I gave the US a little bit more.
Okay.
And let me see, All or Nothing. I gave it a 3.5 and a 3.5. And you rated the US a point lower. You gave it a 4.5 on the UK.
Oh, all or
And
nothing.
a 3.5 today. Yeah, wow. I was really, I felt like some of these I'm like, oh, I think I might be rating this higher, but I guess I don't know. Hungry for Love, we both gave the UK a 4. And I gave it a 4 and a 3. You gave it a 3.5 today. So you preferred the US version a little less.
Mm-hmm.
Guilty of Love. I gave the UK 0.45 and the US for a 4, and you gave it a 4 and a 4. And that's it.
That's it. That's all the tracks. Wow. So, I mean, I guess nothing super revealing. I mean, I going into it, I was pretty sure I preferred the UK version, and this kind of seals the deal with that.
I'm just like, I guess like the one thing that I'm shocked about is like my that I gave the UK slide it in a 5.
Yeah, I remembered you'd give something a 5. I just couldn't remember which track it was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not I'm actually a little and it was only a week ago. And I'm a little, well, I'm not surprised by Gambler. I always liked Gambler as the opener and the UK version, even though I didn't give it a lot more than that. But my biggest variance I thought would be Spit It Out, which I only gave it a little bit more today
Yeah.
than last week. So, but I mean, it's something.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I guess yeah, that was kind of an interesting experiment.
I would say.
Yeah, really no surprise. What do you folks out there prefer?
Let us know in the comments or on the Spotify poll or whatever the heck we got going on this week. I don't know because we haven't done it yet. Okay, so this album came out April 16th, 1984. It was postponed 2 weeks, but finally came out April 16th. Peaked at number 40 in the US on August 25th, 1984. The album is certified platinum in November of 1987. So it's funny. This album came out, did pretty well in the US. The 1987 album comes out, and then boom, this one is immediately certified platinum after that album, which makes perfect sense.
Yep. Everybody went back. Yeah.
And then in 1985, the US remix was released in the UK. So allegedly, when a copy of the US mix had reached David and Mel, they hated it. Mel Galley threw the cassette against the wall, and Coverdale said, "It sucks, and it's dynamically dull. It's lost its British bollocks." But in subsequent years, he seems to be a little more forgiving about it.
Yeah. Just throw it in the pitch.
Yeah.
What?
It's not the pitch. It's the, oh, I can't remember what it is. Is it the Swift?
Oh God, what is it?
The flip? What is it? Skip.
It's
The skip.
Someone one syllable word. The skip. What did I call it? The
skip.
switch. The slip.
Slip is skip it in.
Oh, flip it out.
Flip it in the skip.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So yeah, and I was talking to Jorg the other day about it, and he was kind of telling me that David's recent well, when I say recent, I mean since probably the late 80s, view of this album is a lot more favorable than at the time when it was kind of really a big fight and he didn't like them Americanizing the band. But I think when the checks started clearing, he was
Mm.
probably like, this is a great sound. I like this. Simon Robinson goes on his book. He describes a very long and difficult fight between the band and the record label about the remix, but obviously the record label won out. Um, I, I mean, whatever you and I feel about the album or whoever else feels about the album is kind of immaterial because at the end of the day, it was clearly the right move to do. It really definitely worked. Um, I'm trying to find, well, maybe I'll look for it in a second, but I thought I had it in here and I don't. But the kind of final word I think I have on this comes from David Coverdale himself. I'm just trying to pull it up right now on Twitter. So a while back, I had posted about Slide It In. I posted something. I can't remember what it is. Let's see as it loads up here.
And he responded, "Hello, darlings."
It wasn't that. Oh, crap. I'm never going to find it. All right. Well, I'll have to look for it later. I think I have a screenshot of it upstairs, but basically it was to the fact I posted that, oh, on this day, whatever, that was released in the US version, and he responded and said, "This is perfect. It's exactly what I was trying to achieve," and he put like 5 stars after it. So
Cool.
that's his official word as of whatever earlier this year, last year, whenever that was posted. That's what he says. I'm sure he felt differently at the time, but as we've learned in recent years, he's never stops kind of tinkering with his stuff. So we got a kind of a long episode on our hands, but should we get through some of the US reviews?
Yeah, what the heck?
What the heck?
What the heck?
For
You know,
Pete's sake.
as Arnold would say,
You want some pancakes? Yeah!
I do want some pancakes, Arnold.
I have no idea what that one's from.
This one comes from Circus, Michael Smolin. Whitesnake slide into trouble. Whitesnake, its lineup boasts a heavy metal who's who, and its branch of of metal's family tree feeds into the roots of numerous pivotal 70s, blah, 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 blah. What does he say? Problems began when Axeman of the band in recent European tour. His recuperation will force him to remain backstage for the early dates on their upcoming US tour, talking about Mel Galley. Then the news broke about Deep Purple reunion, for which John Lord packed up his keyboards and bade farewell to the albino Wriggler. On the brighter side, Whitesnake's American tour will take place, blah, blah, blah. I guess they're not really talking about the album in this. Never mind. This one's fun. What do Ozzy Osbourne, Blue Oyster Cult, Meatloaf, and Dio have in common? All have opened for Whitesnake. That's interesting. So this is more of just like an ad for the album. In the Racks, this one is from an unknown source. Whitesnake, the heavy-duty outfit led by former Deep Purple frontman David Coverdale, has built up a huge following in Europe over the past few years. While the band is virtually unknown to all but the most hardcore metal fans over here, Geffen Records hopes the situation will change following the April 2nd release, which was delayed. So then there he goes. They're just talking about that. Here we go. Whitesnake's album winds its way to success. This is from Daily Kent Stater. It's by Tony Triglio. So it ends with, let's see, he says, it's rare for a band to survive these days with little radio airplay. It is equally rare for such bands to attract the backing to produce a decent album without the benefit of successful market sales, which coincidentally correlate highly with radio attention. Whitesnake seems to be one of the exceptions to this music industry rule. Formed by ex-Deep Purple vocalist David Coverdale in 1977, not correct, the band has endured 7 years on the road, shunning the typical promotion methods currently in vogue. Their newest release is a final example of the uncompromising brand of rock and roll that is scarce on new music shelves today. There are no frills, no gimmicks, just straightforward songs, reminiscent of the pre-computer days of the record industry. It ends up with this saying, listening to John Lord's work on Slide It In raises hopes there are still some bands, though very few, who have dropped the computer chips from the traditional organ sound. Slide It In is an exciting diversion among new releases. It is a fun album for those who can ignore the sexism of the lyrics. Hopefully Whitesnake can continue in such unbending fashion and not swell the ranks of bands who have sold out for top 40 success. Well, So much for that. Good luck on that, Tony Triglio.
Oof.
This one is from the Cumberland Sunday Times. Whitesnake Slide It In. Although Whitesnake has not scored as big in the US as in Europe, the rebirth of heavy metal thanks to MTV should propel the success of this album. All 5 members have satisfactory credentials. David Coverdale, vocalist and keyboardist. John Lord were members of Deep Purple. Drummer Cozy Powell was formerly with Rainbow. Guitarist John Sykes hails from Thin Lizzy. Blah, blah, blah. They go through the whole thing. The molding of such veteran markers is evident of the sound, which is solid rock, highlighted by Coverdale's soulful vocals and the searing guitar work of Sykes. This all comes together in the fine production of Barton Birch, known for his work with Foreigner, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple. Foreigner? I think maybe they got that confused with something else with what's his name, the guy who mixed it. The energy is best captured on such cuts as Slide It In, Gambler, and Hungry for Love.
Yeah, I don't know if like Sykes Sykes guitar work could be classified as searing on this album.
No. In fact, I was kind of taken with how understated most of his solos were. Like while I was saying he was throwing in some kind of things that were reminiscent of Randy Rhoads, it never got to the point where he was like shredding and doing all this crazy thing. Much more so on the '87 album. I think he was really understated on this.
Yeah, I would say searing, even soaring, like a few years later.
Yeah.
But on this, I would definitely agree and say more understated, but it's still good.
Oh yeah. Really
but
good.
I mean, if you didn't tell me that it was John Sykes, I wouldn't know.
No, I would have figured it wasn't Moody or Galley, but yeah,
Right.
it didn't really scream out Sykes. This one's going to be hard to read. TV host. It's highly unlikely that any album released this year will match the hard rock credentials of Whitesnake's debut album on Geffen Records, Slide It In. Then they kind of end with it says, while Slide It In may be American audience's first real introduction to Whitesnake, the band has been a staple in the European music scene for some time. A series of top-selling albums have brought the band a large and fervent following on the continent, and their incendiary live shows. I think they're just cutting and pasting directly from the press release.
Yeah, because
like,
you see I bust my bollocks for what I do. That's the first thing I saw. I'm like, yeah, they phoned this one in.
All right, yeah, they had a deadline to meet, and they're like, you know what? All right, send it to print. I bust my bollocks. 1 L or 2 L's in bollocks. Print it. Okay.
Print it.
Arizona Republic, the British hard rock band on the European scene for a couple of years. This sound is a mixture of fuzz-wah heavy metal and Deep Purple hard rock. Group founder David Coverdale and John Lord, yeah, we know their history. What comes across on this record, besides some exceptional guitar-driven hard rock, is the versatility of lead singer and writer Coverdale. Unlike most hard rock vocalists, he can sing, and demonstrated in the opening licks of Love Ain't No Stranger and Give Me More Time. The rest is pure, razor-sharp rock and roll with no pretensions at being anything else.
You know, I'm hearing a lot more, as opposed to last week's reviews. These seem to be a lot more favorable.
Well, I think it's because, Jeff Bryce sent in his email, I can't remember if I said this last week, but he summed it up as the UK version of this album was the end of the beginning, and the US version was the beginning of the end. And I think what you're seeing here is the UK audience was like already, even with the UK mix, was saying, oh, Whitesnake, they're already jaded and over them. But now they're getting introduced to the American market, and it's like, wow, this is fresh and new and exciting, and we love it. So yeah, you see two totally different American audiences. It would take them probably a few years to become jaded on them, and then I'm sure by the time we get to Slip of the Tongue, they'll be like, oh, they need to hang it up, these old blah blah blahs or whatever, even though it's only a few years later.
Coverdale's 40. He's ancient.
He's, oh my God, put him out to pasture. They should just euthanize the man. He's too old to go on.
I love it.
This one by Bob Sharp in the Morning Call. Good stuff from the rock heavyweights assembled here, including David Coverdale, who once replaced Ian Gillan as Deep Purple. Okay, they all go through the backstory here. Coverdale singing invokes memories of Bad Company's Paul Rodgers, not only because of Coverdale's distinctive rich voice, but also Whitesnake's oh-so-British hard rock. Not to say, however, that the 10 cuts on this debut album are borrowed from another era. They're original, each one sounds different, and they're unpredictable. Just as the songs appear to settle into a groove, a new twist or transition makes them even more interesting. Swell. See what he did there? Was it like a snake?
Huh?
And then there's a there's a review for a Jermaine Jackson album right underneath it.
Whitesnake and Jermaine Jackson side by side at
Yeah.
last.
Releasing albums, yeah, man. Oh, if only they could have gone on tour together. Um, this one ends with, this is from Springfield Leader and Press. It ends with, if you have heard one Whitesnake album, you have heard about all they have to offer. There are some bluesy rock ballads and some bluesy hard rockers. A few years ago, this may have been a successful album, but it's hard to believe that the current young generation of Def Leppard and Motley Crue fans will go for it. Well, buckle up, my friend. Mark Marimont's about to be proven wrong.
Oh yeah.
This one's the Cumberland Evening Tempest. Speaking of heavy metal, Whitesnake has been grinding away in Europe for quite a while and now has decided to assault U.S. audiences. There are 6 heavies in the band, and founder David Coverdale is a refugee from Deep Purple. Coverdale confesses that bending metal is hard work. I bust my bollocks for what I do. Sounds like it too.
Man, they just love that line.
I bust my bollocks. Oh, it's such a cheeky British expression. Make sure you include that in the piece. This one is like the same exact thing. This I think is it's
yeah.
a different thing, but it's the exact same writing. A lot of copy and paste. This one is the same too.
I bust my bollocks.
I'm telling you, they must have been close to a deadline. Everyone's just copy and paste that press release. Let's go. I mean, that's why they send out these press releases, because they're like, hey, if you're going to be lazy and just copy and paste what we're going to send you, then we're going to send you something that's really glowing. This is something
He busts his bollocks because
Ballsy.
So check this out. All the hot singles at the time: Whitesnake, Slow and Easy; Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It; David Gilmour, Blue Light; Icon, World War, don't know that one at all; Slade, My Oh My; Wasp, Show No Mercy; Ozzy, So Tired; REM, Seven Chinese Brothers; and Pat Travers, Hot Shot.
Ozzy's so
and
tired.
They're all ranked from 5 stars to 1. 5 stars is radical, 4 is red hot, 3 is good effort, 2 is lousy, 1 is crap. Slow and Easy got good effort. Twisted Sister got good effort. David Gilmour got crap. Icon by World War got red hot, and the Wasp song got radical.
Show No Mercy is a pretty cool track.
I guess so.
So tired. It is pretty lousy.
So Tired is not my favorite. It's not my favorite Ozzy song and not my favorite Ozzy
So
album.
tired, so tired. It's like, all right. Yeah, you sound like it. Go to sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep, old man. All right, we've got, this is just a Whitesnake, Slow and Easy, and it's produced by Martin Birch, remixed by Keith Olsen. I think they spelled Olsen wrong.
Yeah, they did. And look at this. They're on tour with Ronnie Dio.
Ronnie Dio. July 18th to July 30th. I think they were just called Dio at that point. But
yeah. And I mean, even if he was, he's Ronnie James Dio, damn it.
Yeah, you can't just go Ronnie Dio. It's got to be Ronnie James, the full thing, or just Dio. Come on, get with the program here.
Or
Radio
Ronnie.
Records. This is a record review by Bill Merrill. They go through the whole history: Deep Purple, Rainbow, both Glover and Whitesnake, blah blah
Blah blah blah, bollocks.
They talk about Mask, because Mask had just come out. Okay, so finally, in the last 2 paragraphs, Whitesnake has followed a more consistent path. Their new album, Slide It In, is a reasonable extension of what Deep Purple started. Coverdale sings in a familiar heavy metal, macho and throaty, and rhythm section is loud and pressing. Where they update their sound to the 80s is the harmony guitars of Sykes and Galley, plus occasional accompaniment from the piano from John Lord. Unfortunately, they have also updated the production to 80s heavy metal standards, which means they have come on too strong at times. Whether it is Whitesnake's hard rock or Roger Glover's experiments in the new wave, Deep Purple spirits live on. There are even rumors of the group reforming this fall. Ooh, I wonder if it'll happen.
Stay tuned.
And then we've got just a couple more left here. This one is Potent Whitesnake. Potent Potables. Slide In is too derivative to be another Machine Head. Particularly annoying are the obvious sexual innuendos that turn potentially strong tracks into sexist trash. Jim Reeves.
Well, buckle up, Jimmy, because there's going to be more of that to come.
Yeah, I don't know about trash, but sexist. I mean, it's hard to.
Oh, sexist, absolutely. Trash, never.
Trash, no, it's good stuff.
It's sexy. No, sexist. Ah.
Oh, Whitesnake's experience pays off with a new album. What does it say here in the end? The overall effect is much like Rainbow. Slided in shows you what musical proficiency can do in the hard work genre. A note to those concerned about such things. Some lyrics are sexually suggestive, others quite explicit. There you go. And then they're putting a little addendum here. Since the release, Lord and guitarist Mel Galley have left the band and no replacements have been named.
Hmm.
And then the final review we have, well, it's not even a review, it's just a little picture of, it says, Geffen recording artists Whitesnake partied with label execs at a recent Rockline interview. It's really only Sykes, Cozy, and Coverdale. They're with Geffen's Marco Babineau and Whitesnake, I'm sorry, Geffen's Robin Rothman and Marco Babineau. So there you have it. Some much more favorable reviews than last week's UK.
Oh yeah.
Much
kidding me?
kinder. But woof, well that was a marathon session, two in a row of the first time we kind of did anything like this.
Woof.
Let us know what you think. I mean, I don't think there's really any other albums kind of quite like this one where we would need to give it this sort of treatment, but I think it was fun, and with that, I think we should probably cut our losses here. Those will be another 2 pretty long episodes in a row. So
Yeah.
but there you have it. All right, John. Well, with that, my friend, I will see you next week.
Hasta la vista, baby.
You've been waiting for that one.
How did you guess? How did you guess?
All right. I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.